The last breath of winter clung stubbornly to the edges of Crestview, a sleepy town where snow still whispered across the sidewalks long after the sun had dipped below the trees. That evening, as the sky turned from a bruised lavender to deep charcoal, 18-year-old Jamal Dawson coasted down Main Street on an old bicycle that had seen better days. It wasn't just any bike ride had belonged to his mother, who passed away the year before. With her gone, the bike became his inheritance, his transportation, his lifeline. The chain clicked with every turn of the pedal, the back rack rattled under the weight of his delivery bag, and his breath steamed with every exhale as he zipped past shuttered storefronts and flickering street lamps. He was down to his final delivery for the night. One last trip, and he'd have just enough to pay for the mattress he rented in a cramped back room above a laundromat. One missed delivery, and that would be gone. The landlord had been clear. Jamal wasn't new to hardship. Since losing his mom, he'd learned to navigate survival like an art, stringing together odd jobs, delivering groceries, meds, even flowers if someone paid enough. He had no relatives, no safety net, just his legs, his grit, and the hope that tomorrow might be kinder than today. As he approached the edge of town, cutting through the last intersection before heading uphill to make his final stop, something made him pump the brakes. There, beneath a sputtering lamppost, sat an old woman alone at a bus stop, wrapped in a beige wool coat that had faded with time. Her silver hair curled gently beneath a hat, and she clutched a worn leather purse like it held her last tether to the world. She looked lost. No one else noticed. People passed without glancing her way. Some too busy, some too cold, some just too numb. But Jamal saw her. She stood, looked down the road, stepped forward, then hesitated and shuffled back. Her lips moved as if whispering directions to a place only she remembered. He pulled his bike to the side, unslung his water bottle, and took a sip while watching her. Then he heard her voice, trembling and nearly carried away by the wind. Bus 12 Willows something Oak Hill Drive, I think. That was enough. Jamal pushed his bike beside him and walked over slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Ma'am," he asked gently, "are you all right?" Her eyes flicked up at him, glassy and searching. "I was trying to get home," she murmured, "but I think the bus forgot me, or maybe I forgot the bus." She gave a soft, brittle laugh. "These days I mix things up. Where do you live?" he asked, crouching down a bit so he didn't tower over her. "Maybe I can help." She fumbled through her purse, pulling out a handkerchief, an uncapped lipstick, some loose change, a bus pass from 2 days ago, but nothing useful. Then he noticed the necklace, a silver oval pendant resting gently against her coat. He leaned in. On the back of the charm, engraved in looping cursive, were the words, "Margaret Elwood 48, Oak Hill Drive, North Side." Jamal froze. He knew that address. It was far, nearly 2 hours by bike, most of it uphill. If he took her there, he'd miss his delivery, lose his mattress, and sleep in the cold. The decision tightened in his chest. But he looked at her again. Her face was soft with confusion, her trust given so freely just because he had stopped to ask. He couldn't walk away. "Okay," he said, forcing a smile. "That's a long ride, but we'll get there." He tied his extra scarf around the seat rack, wrapped his thin jacket around her shoulders, and helped her sit gently on the bike's back rail. "Hold on, Miss Margaret," he said. "We'll go slow." She smiled, her voice catching on a memory. "You remind me of my grandson. Always had holes in his sneakers and pride in his chest." Jamal didn't correct her. He just nodded and started pedaling. They passed the final street lamp, and the sky darkened fully. The wind bit harder, but he kept moving. Her voice hummed behind him, sometimes in song, sometimes in questions she had already asked. "Where are we now? Is it far? Are you sure we're going the right way?" And each time, he answered with calm assurance. "Almost there. Just over the hill. Don't worry, I've got you." At one point, she coughed, and he stopped at a tiny gas station to buy her tea with the last dollar in his pocket. She insisted he drink first. "You're the one doing all the work," she said firmly, and it warmed him more than the tea ever could. When they finally reached 48 Oak Hill, it was past 9:30. The white gate stood crooked in the moonlight, ivy climbing lazily up its bars. Jamal's legs trembled with fatigue. His hands were numb, but he had made it. He knocked on the door. An elderly man answered, alarm rising in his face until he saw her. Margaret, thank God. We were about to call the police. I think I took a long route home, she murmured with a dreamy smile. The man, her housekeeper, it turned out, nearly wept in relief. He invited Jamal in, offered him food, a warm place to rest, even a ride back. But Jamal declined. He scribbled his number on a receipt and handed it over. In case she needs anything again, he said. Then he got back on the bike and rode into the cold, unaware that when he returned, his key would no longer fit the lock. Sure enough, when he arrived back at the boarding house, the porch was dark. His belongings were in a plastic bag by the door. A note was taped above it. Past due. Locks changed. He stood in silence, his breath rising like smoke. Then, slowly, he turned and rode toward the center of town. He had nowhere to go, but movement kept the cold from claiming his bones too quickly. By midnight, he stopped behind Johnson's Market, the corner store where he sometimes helped out. He knocked once on the side door. After a pause, the light flicked on. Didn't make rent, huh? Mister, Johnson said, eyeing Jamal's hollow stare. No, sir. The old man sighed, stepped aside. Storeroom's dry. Cot in the corner. Don't freeze on me. Thank you, Jamal whispered. That night, he curled beneath a thin blanket in a room that smelled like oranges and cardboard. The radiator clanked angrily, but he slept warm in his chest, if not his skin, thinking of Margaret's pendant, her laugh, and the way she'd said, "You remind me of someone I love." In the morning, a sleek black car pulled up outside Johnson's Market. The driver stepped out tall, sharply dressed, his coat unwrinkled, his shoes gleaming. He walked into the store with purpose. "I'm looking for Jamal Dawson," he said. Jamal stepped forward slowly. "I'm Charles," the man said. "Miss Margaret Elwood sent me. She remembers everything. She wants to thank you." Jamal blinked. "I just wanted to get her home safe. That's all. She says you did more than that. She says you helped her find herself again." "Mister." Johnson sipped his coffee and said nothing, but his eyes followed Jamal. "She'd like to see you," Charles added. "She insists." Jamal looked at the receipt. He had given them the number, scribbled without hope. "Now'd I come back." "Go, mister," Johnson said quietly. "Your cot'll be here if you need it." Jamal nodded and followed Charles to the car. This time, Oak Hill didn't feel distant. It felt possible. Inside the estate, Margaret sat by a sun-drenched window. She looked every bit herself, now clear-eyed, graceful. "You brought me home," she whispered, reaching for his hands. "And I'd like to offer you something in return. A place here, not for charity, but because kindness deserves space." Jamal hesitated, unsure how to receive such generosity. "I didn't do it for anything," he said softly. "I just didn't want her to be alone. And that," Margaret said, "is exactly why I want you here." In time, he accepted, not out of desperation, but recognition. Margaret offered him a room, a modest stipend, and most importantly, a path. With her support, he enrolled in school again. He helped create a foundation called the Willow Light Fund, named after the street she couldn't remember and the act she would never forget. The fund helped youth with potential but no means. It sheltered elders like Margaret who had no family nearby. Jamal worked at the center. It opened, taught classes, mentored boys like himself, and rode his mother's bike not out of necessity anymore, but memory. And every time he passed the old bus stop, he slowed and smiled. Because sometimes you don't find home. Sometimes home finds you.